Kuan saber is made from other hill stone. Lu Zigong watched his uncle carving jade from the outside, knowing that the tools for carving jade are not knives but are slowly ground out using jade mixed with water on a circular disc or grinding wheel. If this knife can truly cut jade like mud, then it is indeed a treasure. Later, the boss also prepared some jade materials for him to practice with. Lu Zigong saw that the boss brought only the finest jade materials, and initially felt embarrassed to accept them. The boss told him, "Don't think that I am giving these to you for free to practice. I want you to become the best jade carver in the world, and then polish a piece of jade for me." Lu Zigong's confidence doubled after hearing this. The boss reminded him to use the Wu saber well, but to be extremely careful when using it. He must not let the blade touch human blood, let alone use it to take lives, or else the consequences would be unimaginable. Just like that, 10 years have passed. The little girl from back then has grown up into a graceful and elegant young lady. On this day, she was ordered to enter the palace to prepare food and drinks for the jade carver who came from Suzhou. This inevitably reminded her of the past. A boy also aspired to become a jade carver. She held a piece of jade material, but couldn't recall the specific appearance of that person. Uniquely emphasized that this reception was for an important guest. Each piece has a unique signature on it. This jade carver seems to have a quirky temperament and may not be easy to deal with. The girl hurried to the kitchen and started working busily. She just opened her portable tool kit, and a dark blue kitchen knife appeared in front of her. This kitchen knife has been passed down to her from her father for 15 generations. The girl gently caressed the knife. She remembered the scenes when her parents were still by her side. The knife on the table suddenly shaking startled her. Could this be the legendary phenomenon known as sword singing? Before the girl could figure out what was happening, she sensed someone approaching behind her. She had heard Master Shu talk about sword singing protects the master before. Could it be that someone was trying to harm her life? She immediately wielded her sword towards the incoming person, who turned out to be the grown-up Lu Zigong. Months ago, Lu Zigong received repeated letters from the director of the Imperial Household Department asking him to go to the capital for an appointment. Considering that Liangyu is talented in craftsmanship, Lu Zigong decided to stay in Su Prefecture and directly refused the offer. However, the boss on the side watched as he expertly used the knife in his hand, feeling that he had already lived up to the reputation of the world's top jade carver. Moreover, they had stayed in Suzhou long enough, so the boss decided to move the silent house to the capital. Lu Zigong, as his apprentice, naturally accompanied him. After entering the palace, Lu Zigong intended to visit several craftsman friends from Suzhou at the jade polishing workshop on the way. He unexpectedly got lost. Suddenly, he smelled a strong aroma of chicken soup coming from a palace. He followed the scent, and when he reached the door, his Wu saber, which he carried with him, suddenly vibrated. He immediately realized that the Kuan saber was nearby because the Wu saber was too small and could only be used to sculpt small jade objects. He had also inquired with the boss about the whereabouts of a larger Kuan saber. But the boss said that it was too long ago, and he couldn't remember either. Just know that when the Kuan saber is near the Wu saber, perhaps the sound of clashing swords may occur due to centuries of separation. Ancient records state that during the spring and autumn and warring states periods, the king of Chu ordered Moyi to forge twin swords. Moyi kept the male sword and presented the female sword to the king of Chu. The king of Chu alone kept the female sword in a box, where it resounded mournfully. The Kuan saber and Wu saber will also resonate in such a way. Lu Zigong looked at the Wu saber in his hand, emitting a clear ringing sound. He could not hide his excitement, thinking that a master jeweler owned the Kuan saber. He couldn't wait to pay a visit. There was a buzzing kitchen knife next to her hand. The female cook grabbed the knife and chopped towards him. Luckily, he dodged fast enough. He dodged to the side and quickly apologized. Misunderstanding. Please don't take action first. After hearing Lu Zigong speak in Suzhou dialect, the girl relaxed her guard and told him that the kitchen was off limits. Lu Zigong took out the buzzing saber and was about to speak. Didn't expect the girl to see both knives making a clanging sound. She actually pointed at his carving knife and said, "My dad didn't tell me there's a matching fruit knife too." Lu Zigong hastily explained, "This kitchen knife is actually an ancient Kuan saber used for assisting in jade aid." Unexpectedly, the girl misheard it as jail raid. Later, she even used the Kuan saber to cut vegetables in front of Lu Zigong. She also said that this knife was passed down from her ancestors. No matter what its original purpose was, in her eyes, it is simply a kitchen knife. Suddenly the girl scrutinized Lu Zigong and asked, "Aren't you the jade carver that the director invited for tonight, the one whose signature must be on the artworks?" Upon hearing this, Lu Zigong immediately asked back, "What's wrong with leaving a signature?" Just like calligraphy and paintings, jade artworks are also considered art pieces. Why is it that calligraphy and paintings can be signed, increasing their value when done by famous artists, but jade artworks cannot? I am determined to become the best jade carver in the world. Lu Zigong has never mentioned this to anyone. But for some reason, he felt comfortable speaking freely in front of this girl. The girl was obviously stunned by his words. Since ancient times, there have been 4 social classes: scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants. The value of calligraphy and painting lies in its ability to leave a lasting impression. Most of them are scholars or successful provincial examinees. It's even possible that they are related to kings, nobles, or generals. Jade articles are all made by jade carvers. Even if they are famous, they are just craftsmen. The girl can see that his actions, though seemingly arrogant, are actually meant to elevate the status of craftsmen. This indeed requires courage. The girl then adjusted her hair and stopped arguing. Unintentionally, she revealed the jade she had been wearing since childhood. Lu Zigong immediately recognized the jade and realized that the girl in front of him was the little girl from back then. Unexpectedly, 10 years had flown by, and she had actually realized her childhood dream of becoming a chef. While he had become a jade carver, Lu Zigong introduced himself by name. The girl found the name familiar, but couldn't place who it was for a moment. She handed the jade to Lu Zigong, hoping that he could help her carve a jade piece for herself as well. But she tightly guarded her small purse, saying that she didn't have any money to pay for the work. Lu Zigong smiled knowingly, saying, "No problem. Consider it as me owing you a meal." So, they agreed to meet at the silent house in the West Market to make the exchange in a few days. Shortly after Lu Zigong left, Eunuch Li came soon after to deliver the message that the welcoming banquet tonight has been cancelled. The girl took advantage of the early time and happened to return to the shift of Imperial Consort Duan. She planned to visit the silent house in a few days to find out the truth, but she never thought that she would never see Lu Zigong again after this parting. That night, Lu Zigong stared at the jade stone in his hand. He hesitated and didn't know what kind of design to carve. His mind was filled with the image of the girl. The boss saw the jade material in his hand and asked where it came from. It was learned that Lu Zigong met an old acquaintance in the palace during the day. She was the little girl from the restaurant next to the silent house back then. The Kuan saber was in her hands, but it had turned into a kitchen knife. At this moment, Lu Zigong suddenly remembered. The boss had said that this knife must not be stained with blood and must not take lives. But when cooking, it's inevitable that there will be blood stains. He felt a faint sense of unease in his heart. The boss also fell into silence. The blood-stained Kuan saber is a murder weapon that will backfire on the holder. The girl was previously peaceful because she wore a jade that could ward off evil spirits. But now that the jade is no longer on her, it's probably too late to send it back. After a long time, the boss advised Lu Zigong to carve a longevity lock. He reminded him not to sign his name on the things given to the girl's family. But Lu Zigong wouldn't listen. He just hopes the girl can wear the longevity lock with his name engraved on it. And he is planning that during the next meeting, He must ask her what her name is. But later, this wish still fell through. After hastily parting ways in the palace, he waited for several days at the silent house, but the girl never came to retrieve the jade. Later, he heard that on the night of their separation, the palace maids and imperial consort Duan's palace were plotting to rebel and assassinate the emperor. It was said that the emperor had gone mad due to his obsession with cultivating immortality, ordering the maids to collect dew for him to drink. He commanded the maids to collect dew in the imperial garden before dawn, and the punishments for disobedience in the palace were severe. Unable to endure the humiliation, the maids almost strangled the emperor with a yellow silk cloth. That night, regardless of their involvement, the palace maids and imperial consort Duan's palace were all captured by the embroidered uniform guard and subjected to brutal interrogations. In the end, none survived, and all were executed by quartering at the western market near the Forpaifong gate. After learning about this, Lu Zigong ran to the front of the announcement, seeking the name of the girl, but every name seemed unfamiliar to him. He clenched the wu-saber in his hand, unable to believe that his 10 years of yearning had led to such an ending. Lu Zigong refused to accept reality, continuously making assumptions in his mind. If that day I didn't get lost, didn't carry a knife with me, didn't meet her, didn't leave early, would our fate be different? If we had not met each other 20 years ago, I didn't hide in the alley to eat, she didn't bump into me, didn't invite me to eat that plate of fried rice, would there be even less chance of today happening? She is still a chef, I am still a jade carver, we would just pass by each other like strangers. Would that be better? Afterwards, Lu Zigong didn't believe that the girl had died. He waited in agony for 10 years at the silent house. He was finally blamed and imprisoned by the emperor for withholding funds. When he returned the wu-saber to his boss, he then realized that he and the girl were just like Kun wu-saber. Reunion after a long separation followed by permanent separation. He is not afraid of death, but afraid that in the next life, he won't recognize the girl anymore. Fortunately, the boss promised him to find the girl's reincarnation in every lifetime and give her a longevity lock. If they still have memories in the next life, they will rely on this longevity lock for identification. 400 years later, the boss gave the longevity lock to the reincarnation of that girl. However, in this life, she has turned into a boy. That is the present Su Northland. The longevity lock has also completed its mission, blocking the disaster for its owner and breaking into two halves. Afterwards, the boss left the broken longevity lock in the underground palace of the Qin tomb to accompany its original owner, Fu Su, forever. And at this time, Lu Zigong had also been reincarnated as a human. He has returned to the silent house again. Do you know the only empress in Chinese history, Empress Wu Zetian? Is the wordless stele erected after her death because she believed that a tombstone was not enough to engrave her life story, and no one was qualified to pass judgment on her? No one can judge the queen, not even the gods, not even I myself. The boss's old friend has arrived at the silent house. He is the reincarnation of Lu Zigong. In this lifetime, he works in the field of archaeology. He often comes to discuss work with the boss. This time he came because a few days ago, he found something strange in Xi'an. But as soon as he walked into the store, he felt that the silent house storefront seemed to have shrunk a lot. And what's the deal with the terracotta army in front of the door? The boss just casually replied, "The rent is too expensive." But Lu Zigong knew that any piece of antiques taken out from the boss's store could buy the most luxurious storefront in the best area of Hangzhou. The reason he lingered in this inconspicuous little commercial street was that the boss had no intention of selling antiques. The boss brewed a pot of tea for Lu Zigong as if entertaining an old friend. Surprisingly, the teaware used was an antique from the good kiln of the late Song dynasty, and the tea served was a top-grade preaching Minglongjing tea. Lu Zigong thought to himself that he was truly fortunate. And every time he returned to the silent house, he would have a familiar feeling that lingered. It was only after savoring this feeling for a long time that he remembered to attend to his official duties. Lu Zigong took out a stone from his bag and handed it to the boss, saying that he had recently visited Xi'an and received this item from someone there. He wanted the boss to take a look and see what its origins were. At a glance, the boss could tell that this is a Tianwang stone, which is as rare as gold, easy to find gold, but hard to find Tianwang. This item, based on the current market price, is undoubtedly priceless. However, its value lies not only in the material, but also in its unique carving style. Suddenly, both Lu Zigong and the boss thought of a possibility and said in unison, "The wordless steel." The boss then got up and brought out a box from the inner room. This was a stone carving he had collected many years ago, its origin unknown. All he knew was that Mount Shoshan stone carvings were first seen on the stone statues of the southern dynasties, but with rough craftsmanship. Later on, apart from funerary purposes, there seemed to be no record of collections. The carving style appeared to be a Mount Shoshan stone carving resembling the wordless stele of the Qianling mausoleum. However, the object did not appear to have been newly carved, and its age seemed quite ancient. At this moment, Lu Zigong suddenly discovered that the stone carving in the boss's hand was actually made of the same material, Tianwang stone, as his own piece. He immediately realized that this wordless stele was likely a funerary object. The boss also mentioned that when he obtained the lower half of the stone carving many years ago, he always thought it resembled a memorial tablet. Because any stone with inscriptions can become a stele, this unconventional wordless stele also seems to match the character of Empress Wu Zetian. But Lu Zigong felt it was not right. If this Tianwang stone wordless stele is indeed a memorial tablet for a burial, it must have been stolen from the Qianling mausoleum. But the Qianling mausoleum has never been looted. So, he picked up the Tianwang stone and placed it on the stone carving. The two stones miraculously fit together perfectly. His thoughts drifted to a remote wilderness, where he heard a girl crying and shouting, "Ji Song, please don't die!" Lu Zigong was very surprised. The girl before him was dressed in the style of early Tang dynasty with narrow eyebrows and small sleeves. He thought he had crossed over to the set of a period drama, but he discovered that his body was unexpectedly out of his control. He could only quietly watch as the girl beside him cried and poured out her heart. The girl knew that she had betrayed her childhood sweetheart Ji Song, but she felt helpless too. Since her father passed away 2 years ago, the other wives at home have been mocking her and her mother. In order to help her mother, she must distinguish herself. The only way out is to enter the palace and try her luck. Lu Zigong suddenly realized this. No wonder the clothes she wears are quite luxurious, but the eyebrow pencil she uses is just ordinary green copper ore. It seems that she was pampered by her father before, enjoying worry-free food and clothing. But after her father passed away, she couldn't afford the expensive rouge and powder from Jiangnan anymore. She had to learn to be like an ordinary woman, using a knife to scrape the copper or from behind a bronze mirror to draw her eyebrows. So it was precisely because of the disparity in her life that this young girl wanted to bravely pursue her dreams. Suddenly, Lu Zigong found that his body was speaking. He also realized that he might just have acquired first-person memory fragments. At this moment, the man who was barely clinging to life insisted on telling the girl that he was content just to have seen her willing to come to the mountains to meet him in secret. He felt satisfied, as he believed he was not destined for happiness and shouldn't force her to accompany him. He earnestly urged the girl to take care of herself, reminding her that the palace was a dangerous place filled with treachery and deceit. The man lying on the ground is named Ji Song, who arranged to meet the young girl in the mountains to dissuade her from entering the palace. However, a sudden quarrel broke out halfway, and it is unclear whether the girl accidentally pushed him off the cliff or if he fell on his own. He is now gasping for breath. After giving his instructions to the girl, Ji Song breathed his last and fell down. Lu Zigong thoroughly reviewed the history he had learned in his mind. There should be no celebrities named Ji Song in history, but the girl who was about to leave left behind a sentence. One who meets the emperor is destined for misfortune. This is exactly the famous saying by Empress Wu Zetian. Is this little girl perhaps Empress Wu Zetian before she entered the palace? The scene quickly switches again. This time he finds himself in a low-key yet luxurious room. Empress Wu Zetian is right in front of him, but judging from her current age, she should still be the talented lady of Li Shimen, Emperor Taizong of Tang. When Princess Wu entered the palace at the age of 14, she was titled as the talented lady and given the name Mainyang because she had been well-versed in various subjects since childhood, excelling in poetry, calligraphy, and painting. She served in the imperial study for 12 years, constantly immersed in memorials and official documents, laying a solid foundation for her future endeavors. Lu Zigong this time possessed a woman's body. He looked at Empress Wu Zetian, walked up to her and sneered. "Julian, although we are like sisters and you have been good to me, you should not blackmail me with that matter." Lu Zigong found that the body wanted to speak but couldn't make a sound. It was clearly silenced by poison and was struggling to breathe, seeming like it wouldn't survive for long. He remembered that Ji Song, who had just possessed him, had a conversation with Empress Wu Zetian before dying. He felt uneasy. Could it be that this Xulian was also nearing the end of her life? Empress Wu Zetian walked calmly to her side. She helped her hair up and murmured to herself. "It is really easy to quietly die alone in this palace." What exactly was discovered that caused Empress Wu Zetian to be so averse to Xulian? It turns out that during the 20th year of the Jingwan era, when Emperor Taizong of Tang was seriously ill, he had already entrusted state affairs to Crown Prince Li Ji. From then on, the Crown Prince handled daily court affairs, attending morning court sessions, and then taking care of the emperor's health. During this period, Crown Prince Li Ji developed feelings for Empress Wu Zetian, who was of a similar age. The campmaid Xulian is the one who stumbled upon their secret relationship between her and Li Ji. So Empress Wu Zetian took action against the palace maid Xulian in the imperial study because of this. Empress Wu Zetian at that time wanted to place the burden of her latter years on Li Ji's shoulders. She did not want to be forced to become a nun and enter Ganya Temple for practice after Emperor Taizong of Tang passed away. She was imprisoned, but by singing the song, Lady Rui, she captured the heart of the new Emperor Li Ji again. She was able to return to the palace. When Xulian breathed her last breath, the scene before Lu Zigong's eyes changed once again. This time, he possessed the body of Empress Wu Zetian's unfortunate deceased daughter, who was still a baby. Although historical records do not mention the death of this daughter, Sima Guang's comprehensive mirror for aid in government clearly indicates that Empress Wu Zetian personally killed her own daughter and then blamed Empress Wang. Tigers do not eat their cubs, but Empress Wu Zetian's actions were far more than just killing her daughter. Elder brother, son, son-in-law, nephew, and grandson, she directly or indirectly ordered the killing of all of them. In the concept of Empress Wu Zetian, using a newborn daughter to exchange for the position of empress was indeed quite profitable, but it's a pity for such a young child. It is likely that Empress Wang has just visited the little princess. Can the Empress Wu Zetian, who became a nun at Ganya Temple, return to the palace? Part of the reason is Empress Wang. She brought her back to fight against Shao, imperial consort Shu. The result was unexpected, this apparently harmless woman. She can stir up a huge storm in the harem. She even shakes her own position as the queen. If you count it up, Empress Wu Zetian should already be 32 years old, and a woman of this age can still obtain Li Ji's special favor in the beautiful and talented harem, which means that she must have used extremely clever means that others find it difficult to reach. The boss once mentioned that Tian Wang's stone did not yet become a hot collectible during the Tang dynasty. Starting from the northern and southern dynasties, it was mainly used for burial objects. Could it be that the worthless steel carries the vengeful spirit of Empress Wu Zetian, who was killed by it? He happened to encounter it, feeling like watching a movie. He can see the scenes before these people's lives end. Such fragile children. How could Empress Wu Zetian bring herself to do it? He could only watch helplessly as they died. Lu Zigong feels very uncomfortable. Looking at Chinese history, although Empress Dowager Cixi ruled with an iron fist, most of her actions were for her own benefit, leading to chaos in the government. Empress Wu Zetian was a successful politician. Otherwise, with the weak Emperor Gaozong of Tang alone, the rise of the Tang dynasty would have been impossible. Even Emperor Xuanzong of Tang, who followed after, continued Empress Wu Zetian's achievements. But can despicable means be allowed for noble goals? No one wants to become a castaway. If Xizong had not been pushed down a cliff by Empress Wu Zetian, he might have become a successful businessman, with his own career and family living a happy life. If Shulian had not been poisoned by Empress Wu Zetian, she might have reached a marriageable age by now, free from this palace that devours people, and found a good family to marry into and live a peaceful life. If the little princess he is currently possessing were to grow up safely, she might become another Princess Taiping, or a remarkable woman not inferior to her mother. It's really hard to watch Lu Zigong like this, feeling really uncomfortable. Shortly afterwards, Empress Wu Zetian returned to the room, ready to take action against the little princess. After all, she was her own biological daughter. Empress Wu Zetian bit her lip before mustering the courage to do it. She reached out and covered her daughter's nose and mouth to stop her from breathing. After realizing it didn't work, she reached out and started to strangle her daughter. Tears of unwillingness fell on the child's face. She personally closed the child's eyes. After lying on the edge of the bed crying for a while, she shouted, "Someone come quickly! Call the royal physician!" The scene changed again. This time, Lu Zigong opened his eyes and saw a girl eating a piece of meat pie. The host should be Helan, the niece of Empress Wu Zetian. It is said that she caught the attention of Emperor Gaozong of Tang because of her beauty. Empress Wu Zetian saw her as a potential threat, so during a banquet, Helan's life, like a delicate flower, was ended by a poisonous meat pie. But where was Empress Wu Zetian at this time? The girl suddenly asked how many sentences Helan was willing to listen to. Empress Wu Zetian was actually standing right behind her. Helan, struggling with his uncomfortable body, asked, "Why do you want to kill me?" Empress Wu Zetian lifted Helan's chin and told her, "Child, you are innocent. Blame the fact that you are so beautiful. So beautiful that even your uncle wants you. You might think that your aunt is cruel. But you don't understand that men are always eager for new things and grow tired of the old. The more unattainable something is, the more they want it." Although Empress Wu Zetian was already the mother of the nation, she still relied on Li Ji. With just a word from him, Empress Wu Zetian could be left with no burial place. So she had to act first, eliminating all hidden dangers. Helan cannot understand what she is pursuing. She is even willing to kill her closest ones. Empress Wu Zetian has not forgotten her original intentions. When she was young, she was determined to. She could stop her mother from being bullied anymore. When she was older, she wished not to die lonely in this palace. Later, she wanted to become his wife and his queen. But now, Empress Wu Zetian knows that she is aging, while Li Ji is in his prime. She can only use the power in her hands to stabilize her position as the empress. But unexpectedly, Helan questioned her. "Is it worth it?" Empress Wu Zetian knew that she did not do well as a woman, a mother, or a wife, feeling like a lonely family. But only the person standing at the highest position can be called a lonely family. Suddenly Empress Wu Zetian realized something was wrong. Helan has always been gentle, and would never ask such indirect questions. She remembered the look in Jitsong's daughter's eyes when Shulian died before. She questioned Helan who he really was. But Helan was already poisoned at this time. She still couldn't figure out why. Looking at the departing figure of Empress Wu Zetian, Lu Zigong recalled the events of a few years ago. He had once visited Fengxian Temple in Luoyang. The Buddha is known as the compassionate one who shines light upon all. The great Buddha of Luoyang is based on this. The portrayal of Empress Wu Zetian. Without the charm and dignity of Empress Wu Zetian, all transformed into solemnity and compassion. At this moment, the scene in front of Lu Zigong changed again. This time, what appeared before him was Empress Wu Zetian, who had already reached the peak of her life. She addressed the half-dead man below, saying, Xuehui, don't think that we really need you. We are already 72 years old this year. Do we still need someone to attend to us? Men are always insatiable. You are just a male favorite. We have granted you the title of Grand Marshal, but it's still not enough. You even dare to flaunt and be arrogant. Now you even dare to burn Mingtang for us. Have I really been blind to not see through your tricks? Lu Zigong just realized this. This time he possessed Xuehui. This person deserves to die, so he chuckled lightly. This was noticed by Empress Wu Zetian. She recognized him as the mysterious figure who always appeared whenever she killed someone. Empress Wu Zetian only killed a few people personally, and no one else knew about it. So she suspected the person in front of her could be a god? So she pointed at him and asked, "Are you here to judge me? Then tell me, is Lian a good person or a bad person?" The mysterious person did not answer. Empress Wu Zetian turned around with great authority. No one can judge Lian, not even the deities, not even myself. It was only at this moment that Lu Zigong understood. Empress Wu Zetian had the wordless stele erected at the Qianling Mausoleum after her death because she believed that no one in this world was qualified to make a final judgment on her. Lu Zigong desperately looked at the Empress's towering figure and the Luxi statue at Fengxian Temple, which compassionately saves all beings. The two images slowly merged into one. After some time, Lu Zigong opened his eyes, as if he had just awakened from a deep sleep, looking dazed. The boss handed him a cup of hot tea and said, "Mr. Lu's Tian Wang stone. The wordless stele should be a Ming artifact enshrined in the Qianling Mausoleum underground palace in front of Empress Wu Zetian's tablet. Although the official statement claims that the Qianling Mausoleum has never been robbed, talented individuals have emerged throughout history. Unfortunately, this might mean that the Qianling Mausoleum has also fallen victim to theft. Since it is a valuable item, keeping it in Mr. Lu's hands might attract trouble. How about transferring this half-piece to me, so that the wordless stele can be complete again?" Lu Zigong thought for a moment that combining the two parts of the wordless stele would be the best outcome. Although he really wanted to negotiate with the owner to buy the other half here, he also knew it would definitely cost a fortune. As just an intern researcher, he simply couldn't afford it. At this point, the boss expressed that discussing the price would dampen the relationship. "I can exchange it with other antiques," he said. He then handed the Wu saber from the Qingwu saber to Lu Zigong. Once Lu Zigong held it, he felt an indescribable sense of familiarity. He had never seen this kind of sword in his entire life. So he asked the same question as he did to that girl back then. "Is this a fruit knife?" "Do you know the one known as one of the four ancient great beauties, Imperial Prince Lanling/Gao Cha Gong? Why does he always wear a mask on the battlefield every time? Not just because he is too handsome, but because he wants to be able to communicate with a teenage girl from the 21st century. In 560 AD, Prince Gao Changong of North Qi was sent to guard the border simply because he was the Imperial Prince Lanling appointed by the late emperor and the current emperor's elder brother. There was no place for him in the palace. Since the founding of North Qi, struggles for imperial power have been frequent. The emperor sending Imperial Prince Lanling to the battlefield is clearly an attempt to have him killed. Han Yi, who is wholeheartedly loyal to the emperor, gave Imperial Prince a treasure before arriving at the military camp, hoping to lend him a helping hand. Gao Chagong looked down. This turned out to be a mask made of gold. Han Yi said that this is a treasure given to the Imperial Prince by a hermit. It is said to bless the Imperial Prince with invincibility in battle and ensure victory in every fight. Gao Changong accepted it reluctantly as a gesture of goodwill from his subordinates, but he doesn't believe in its effectiveness. If a mere mask can ensure victory in every battle, then what's the use of having an army? He arrived at the military camp. Gao Chagong has been studying tactics, preparing to face the upcoming battle with Han Gu. He has been in the military camp these few days. The soldiers all look at him with disdain or contempt in their eyes. Although Gao Chagong also felt annoyed, he did not wish to look like this. He never expected that he would be sent to the battlefield without ever having trained in martial arts. Suddenly, the sounds of enemy invasion and fighting outside the tent could be heard. The next second, Han Yi ran in, shouting, "Bad news! The Northern Zhou dynasty has sent troops to attack our camp." He instructed the imperial prince to stay in the barracks and not wander around, while he personally stood guard at the gate to ensure his safety. This remark sparked dissatisfaction from Gao Changdong. What does this mean? Are they treating him like a deserter? He recalled the usual teasing from those soldiers towards him. He immediately called for Han Yi to help him put on his armor. He put on the golden demon mask. Now, his only hope lies in this mask. At the same time, Xiaoli, a game girl from the 21st century, also received an anonymous express delivery. She remembered that she had casually filled out a closed beta test application for an online game some time ago. She thought she had received an official game package. Surprisingly, when she opened it, she found a poster and a wooden box. She was deeply attracted by the man depicted in the painting with just one glance. She couldn't believe that someone could be so beautiful. She decisively pasted it on the wall to admire it. She couldn't wait to install the game and try it out. She found only a golden mask in the painting. The handsome man holding a golden ghost mask should be the famous imperial prince Lan Ling in history. Taking advantage of boredom, Xiaoli decided to put it on and try it out. She didn't expect that a battlefield scene of fierce fighting would appear before her eyes. Could this golden ghost face be the rumored holographic gaming helmet? She heard her own body starting to give orders. Xiaoli panicked. How do you play this game without any operational interface? And her words were also heard by Imperial Prince Lan Ling. Imperial Prince Lan Ling looked around, not knowing where the voice of the woman came from. And at this moment, Xiaoli, who completely regarded this as a virtual game, was wondering if it was a motion-sensing simulation system like the Wii. So she tried to manipulate the horse on her body. After getting on the horse, Imperial Prince Lan Ling found that his body was out of control. He charged straight into the battlefield. He tried hard to calm himself down and not lose his composure. At this time, the North Zhou soldiers have taken advantage of the chaos and broken through Hangu Pass. If Luoyang is lost here, it will be an imminent danger. His muttering also made Xiaoli understand. It turned out that the task of this level was to guard the pass. She was very familiar with playing Dynasty Warriors, so she speculated that this should be a similar kind of warrior game. So she rode her horse and charged towards the battlefield. The North Zhou soldiers saw that it was the North Qi Imperial Prince, so if they killed him, they would surely be promoted by 2 ranks. The enemy launched attacks towards him one after another. However, that person was immediately struck in the throat by Imperial Prince Lan Ling. Blood poured like rain at the scene, shocking Han Yi greatly when she saw it. But Xiaoli felt that although the game scene was realistic, there were no data bars at all. It turned out to be a beta version. Imperial Prince Lan Ling heard a girl speaking inside the mask again, and couldn't help but ask who she was. Xiaoli didn't expect that in this game, she would have to introduce herself to NPCs. She thought it was a segment for naming the character. The enemy's large force happened to charge towards them. She decided to chat with the NPC after finishing this level. Imperial Prince Lan Ling couldn't understand what the girl inside the mask was saying. But suddenly, he felt like he had infinite power within his body. He took the lead and charged forward at the very front. 1/absolutely merciless. This made him wonder if he was possessed by a devil. The scene, akin to a purgatory of demons, was actually created by his own hands. Imperial Prince Lan Ling asked the woman in the mask why she was so indifferent to human life, but the unknowing Xiaoli said, "Isn't this just a game?" Upon hearing that the woman regarded killing as a game, Imperial Prince Lan Ling suddenly felt. The woman behind the golden devil mask is a demon. He directly took off the mask. The game on Xiaoli's side also automatically ends. The scene in front returned to normal. This led Xiaoli to speculate that this should be a trial version. After trying countless times, there seemed to be no way to replay it. Suddenly, she thought, could it be that her last answer was inappropriate, leading to the game being terminated? The next day, she went to the library to borrow a history book. Except for the information about Imperial Prince Lanling's life. She also learned that Imperial Prince Lanling, due to his delicate and gentle appearance, was not intimidating enough to enemies, so he always wore a fierce mask in battles. He was undefeated in battle, and enjoyed a great reputation on the battlefield. But she wanted to know the reopening time of the game. Xiaoli simply decided to wear a mask while doing homework. And at this time, inside the camp of North Qi, the soldiers are celebrating this victorious battle, and each soldier is full of praise for the Imperial Prince's performance yesterday. Imperial Prince Lanling is pondering whether his words to the masked woman yesterday were too harsh. After taking off the mask, he no longer felt like his body was being controlled by others. Is it all over once the mask is taken off? At this time, Han Yi came to visit Imperial Prince Lanling. He could hardly believe the fierce battle he had with him last night. After this battle, even the general, who usually looks down on the Imperial Prince, took the initiative to visit. Who would believe that the person who reaps heads like a demon from hell is actually the once gentle and harmless Gao Changdong? After the war, Imperial Prince Lanling finds Han Yi to question him. He told him that in this supposedly invincible battle, there was actually an evil spirit attached to the golden demon mask. Han Yi, however, was completely unaware. He had tried on the mask before, but had not noticed any abnormalities. He hurried to confess to the Imperial Prince. Imperial Prince Lanling, however, did not blame him. He reflected on being overly dramatic. Being soft-hearted towards enemies on the battlefield is being cruel to oneself. If it wasn't for the Golden Ghost mask last night, we might have died here. Wait for Han Yi to step back. Imperial Prince Lanling was surprised to find that the bloodstains on the mask had disappeared at some point. He thought Han Yi had cleaned it before going out. But he didn't know that the mask had been activated by the power of blood. She can randomly enter the game screen, but the time is not fixed. The content of the game is not just battlefield fighting, but also includes army management, food distribution, and even detailed game plots like military meetings. However, the decision-making power is not in her hands. She needs to persuade Imperial Prince Lanling, which requires her to do sufficient homework in advance. So she extracted various incisive theories from various military books. She also suggested to Imperial Prince Lanling to select 500 guards from the military camp, train them in the form of special forces, equip them with the best gear, and arm them to the teeth, creating the sharpest edge in the North Qi army. Xiaoli eagerly prepared to chat with him about the improvements needed in the marching tactics discussed last time. But after putting on the mask, she found that it was already a snowy winter. Just as she logged in, she heard Imperial Prince Lanling say, "You're finally here." North Zhou has failed to capture Hangu Pass, and has been besieging Luoyang from the rear of Mang Mountain for many days. Xiaoli didn't expect that she had only been playing the game for a little over a month, but for years had already passed in the game. It seems that the game designers only selected the interesting plotlines. The siege of Luoyang in this level should be reminiscent of the historical great victory at Mang Mountain. Xiaoli has already figured out that although North Zhou has come with great momentum this time, claiming to have 100,000 troops, in reality, Luoyang City is protected by the treacherous North Mang Mountains to the north, with the Yellow River and mountains to the south serving as natural barriers. Truly encircling Luoyang City, and cutting off all escape routes for the North Zhou army is simply not feasible. They are likely deploying heavy troops in the surrounding towns to block Luoyang instead. After all, launching a large-scale siege with 100,000 troops is not something that can be easily achieved. From assembling soldiers, training the army, manufacturing weapons, to ensuring food supplies, any oversight in the process could lead to failure. Moreover, it is currently the harsh winter season, with the rivers frozen, rendering the navy useless. So, Xiaoli suggests that they only need to guard against the Zhou army coming from the rear of Mang Mountain. After listening to Xiao Li's suggestions, Imperial Prince Lanling feels much more at ease. He directly led the 500 elite guards to concentrate firepower on the rear side of Mang Mountain. Later, the masked Imperial Prince Lanling, along with 500 soldiers, like a sharp blade, broke through the defenses of North Zhou and charged all the way to Luoyang City. The general guarding Luoyang City asked who was below the city, requesting the person to remove the mask for identity verification. Imperial Prince Lanling is worried that this may cause him to lose contact with Xiao Li. Xiao Li told him to relax. There shouldn't be any more problems in the future. He then took off his mask. The crowd immediately discovered that it was Imperial Prince Lanling and hurriedly opened the door to welcome him. And he won this battle again with the help of Xiao Li. After a while, Xiao Li just remembered that the game may have been updated. She curiously put on the mask. She heard a burst of exciting drum sounds. The intense drumming sounded like peals of thunder before a storm, one after another. It seemed as if a real battle scene appeared before her eyes. This should be at the celebration banquet after the siege of Luoyang. Imperial Prince Lanling was originally carrying a glimmer of hope, hoping that the girl behind the mask could also hear him. He didn't expect to succeed. Xiao Li guessed right away that it was the song of Imperial Prince Lanling entering the battle. Little did he know that this was just an impromptu performance by Imperial Prince Lanling. However, Imperial Prince Lanling also thinks it's a good name. Suddenly, Imperial Prince Lanling asked Xiao Li what exactly she wanted him to do. Imperial Prince Lanling felt that since Xiao Li had been helping him fight for 4 years, she should have some requests. Xiao Li, however, thought that this might be a turning point in the game. She recalled that according to historical records, after the great victory of Imperial Prince Lanling at Mang Mountain, he was summoned back to the capital Yi City by the Emperor, had his military power stripped, and later, due to his achievements overshadowing the Emperor casually found a reason to offer him a cup of poisoned wine, leading to his death. But since it's a game, it wouldn't give players a predetermined losing ending, right? Does it mean that the storyline will evolve into a political intrigue of power struggle and palace drama? Imperial Prince Lanling becoming the Emperor. Thinking of this, Xiao Li decided to speak freely. She asked Imperial Prince Lanling if he was interested in becoming the Emperor. After the great victory at Mang Mountain, your contribution is undeniable. It can be said that you have the support of the people's hearts. The current Emperor is unkind, so if you were to unite the military commanders, there are court officials who will support you to ascend to the throne. Xiao Li spoke eloquently. Imperial Prince Lanling felt very disappointed after listening, recalling that when he first met Xiao Li, the word game was always on his lips. Perhaps even he, Imperial Prince Lanling. He is just a chess piece. So Imperial Prince Lanling quietly took off the mask and cut off the contact. But for some reason, starting from a certain day, even if Imperial Prince Lanling did not wear the mask, Xiao Li could still see the figure of Imperial Prince Lanling through the golden mask. After returning to the capital, Imperial Prince Lanling dismissed his personal guards. He locked himself in his mansion and refused to see anyone. After all, the reigning emperor was somewhat jealous of his military achievements. His decision to shut the door to visitors was also a necessary measure for self-preservation. But even so, one day, soldiers still came bearing the emperor's commands. The emperor gave Imperial Prince Lanling a cup of poisoned wine. Han Yi tried to protect the prince by telling him not to drink it. After seeing the golden mask on the wall, he wanted to hand it over to the Imperial Prince to restore the status of the war god. But he was still stabbed by a soldier's spear. It wasn't until then that Imperial Prince Lanling regretted not listening to Xiao Li's words. Although he doesn't care about the throne, he didn't expect that he couldn't even protect the people around him. Thinking of this, Imperial Prince Lanling drank the poisoned wine in one gulp. Seeing this scene, Xiao Li completely broke down in tears. From that day on, she also put aside games and focused on her studies. When others asked her what motivated her, She simply replied that it was nothing. She just didn't want to regret it in the future when looking back at herself. Shortly after, Xiaoli received a letter. The letter requested her to send the Golden Ghost mask to this address. After the death of Imperial Prince Lanling, the Golden Ghost mask completely disappeared and has never appeared in any images again. Xiaoli also figured out that this is not some holographic gaming turmoil. But what is the meaning of it all now? She does not want her life to become a game that can be squandered at will. Since the mask can no longer connect her to that person, there is no use keeping it. The next day, the silent house received an anonymous parcel. Upon opening it, they found it was actually the golden mask of Imperial Prince Lanling. But the boss is also unsure of who sent this. Su Northland saw such a big lump of gold for the first time. He reached out to touch it. Suddenly, in his mind appeared the figure of an extremely handsome man and a voice saying, "Royal brother, who could this be? Do you know that those antiques that have existed for thousands of years actually have souls? It's just that you can't see or hear them. Unless you can also turn into an antique like them. But the little things that are only 300 to 400 years old have actually condensed the essence that only a 1,000-year-old antique would have. It's really a bit off. You're the one who's off. The antique's in. The silent house can actually speak. Don't scold me. I'm just an ignorant Song Dynasty porcelain plate. Anything is possible. I'm not the nylon cup. I was still a human before today." After finishing work tonight, Su Northland excitedly prepared to go find the boss to eat boiled fish slices. He bumped into a mysterious man on his way downstairs. The other person carefully held a cup labeled Su Northland, guessing that it probably contained hot water. So he prepared to use a gorgeous turn to dodge over. Unexpectedly, he slipped under his feet. He almost fell to his death. Fortunately, the mysterious man caught him in time. Su Northland saw that he didn't look like a hospital staff member, so she reminded him that if he wanted to see a doctor, he should go to the emergency building. The visiting hours for family and friends have already passed. However, the other party called him "Royal brother." Su Northland, who was busy looking for her glasses, didn't pay attention to what was being said. He suddenly noticed a cut on his hand that he didn't know how or when it happened. The mysterious man gestured to hand him the glasses. Instead, he handed him an intricately designed cup. Su Northland had not even reacted before feeling his body go limp and losing consciousness. By the time he was discovered by the security guard, he had already fainted and couldn't be awakened. Colleague Brother Spring saw that person leaving behind a jade cup and fled. Suspecting that the cup belonged to the boss's store, he was afraid that the boss would worry, so he quickly sent it over. The boss could tell at a glance that this was not something from the store. However, this exquisite jade cup looks very valuable. Brother Spring decides to first put it on display in the store. But for some reason, he always felt that the antique shop was unusually eerie. After finishing his task, he quickly left. Before leaving, the boss didn't forget to inquire about the situation of Su Northland. He found out that Su Northland was still sleeping and only felt a little relieved after confirming that there were no health problems. He then put the nylon cup into a wooden box to keep it well preserved. But this scene happened to be seen by the museum director. He said he had to see what good things the owner had hidden. At the same time, Su Northland also heard the director's voice and slowly opened his eyes. However, he found darkness all around. He didn't remember what had just happened. Wasn't he in the hospital just now? He turned his head suddenly and saw the museum director's face magnified several times. He was startled. The curator was also startled when he saw the cup. Nylon cup in white jade. Could this be the Emperor Kangxi's favorite cup from back then? The nylon cup is a wine vessel used to present wine. When filled with jade wine, you can see 9 swirling dragons in the cup. Legend has it that the infamous river pirate Yang Xian, who attempted to sneak into the palace 3 times because of this cup, but failed each time. This made the nylon cup widely renowned in the world. Su Northland sounds increasingly strange as you listen more. Why is the curator always staring at him and mentioning the nylon cup? Could he have some ulterior motives? At that moment, the boss suddenly spoke up, advising the curator not to touch the nylon cup. Legend has it that only the true son of heaven can touch the nylon cup. What will happen if someone else touches it? You can try it yourself. The boss intentionally left it as a mystery. He asked the curator to withdraw his hand. At this time, the boss picked up the cup and held it up to observe. Su Northland then realized his reflection in the boss's eyes. It turns out it was a cup. He guessed this must be a dream just like the pillow of Millet dreams last time. But this dream is too bizarre, isn't it? The boss picked up the nylon cup and placed it on a high shelf. You can see the situation inside the silent house clearly from here. Suddenly Su Northland heard someone's voice, a newcomer. But the boss seems indifferent. After a long time, Su Northland finally discovered. It was the incense burner next to him speaking to him. An old man appeared in the incense burner and pointed at him, saying, "Besides you, boy, who else here is new?" At this time, on the other side, another woman reminded Brother Boshan, "You forgot about the golden ghost mask that has been hanging on the wall. It was just here last week. I heard it's a handsome young man. But that person is still sealed and cannot come out to chat." Listening to the conversation between the two, Su Northland was dumbfounded. This Boshan Cauldron and Chineseculture Palace Lamp can actually speak. Later, Palace Lamp Ling Long introduced the little sister Lin Lang next to him to Su Northland. Although they are both palace lamps, their personalities are completely different. Suddenly, the white glazed porcelain plate also spoke up. "Grandpa Boshan, this new little brother is a bit strange. Didn't you say that only antiques over 1,000 years old can condense into spiritual forms? This nylon cup is just a few hundred years old. Surely it's strange." Su Northland and is boasting. Only then is there something peculiar. The weirdest thing is obviously this shop, okay? What's with the silent house? The antiques inside can clearly speak. At this moment, the Boshan Cauldron spoke. "As long as there is determination, anything is possible." Su Northland is not the refined soul of the nylon cup. He was clearly still a person before today. Other ancient artifacts have heard that he is a human. They immediately started discussing. So in order to prove that everything he said was true, he mentioned that he had added incense to the Boshan Cauldron yesterday in the Su Northland. Unexpectedly, the Boshan Cauldron got angry directly. "It turned out that it was you who burned that cheap Indian incense in my belly. It almost choked the cauldron to death. Do you know what incense the boss usually burns? It's agarwood incense, the top grade among Allah's woods. Only the emperor can afford it. Your cheap incense is not even worthy of my attention. It's really suffocating me." But that's not the point. Because the Chineseculture Palace lamp reminded me of Su Northland, the doctor who used to frequent the store. If it's him, then it's bad. The person who previously delivered the nylon cup mentioned that Su Northland had fallen into a coma. It seems to be related to this cup as well. Su Northland also remembered the mysterious man he encountered before fainting. At that time, the man was holding a cup. Suddenly he realized, could it be that he wasn't dreaming and had really turned into a cup? Boshan Cauldron told him that just like people can be good or bad, objects can also be good or bad. Some objects are inherently made for praying to the heavens, such as sacrificial vessels used for offering to the deities. These objects embody the devout efforts of craftsmen and are filled with spirituality from the moment they are created, easily condensing into spiritual entities. Many ancient supernatural tales believe that the appearing beings are mountain and wild spirits, but a large part are actually spiritual entities of objects. There is another type of object that is inherently made for curse and resentment, such as Chen Ajiao's curse goo puppet. This nylon cup is an excellent jade cup carved from Hotan jade. Jade has the effect of attracting good luck and repelling misfortune. Ancient jade objects are even said to have the power of absorbing one's soul. The longevity lock once retained the damaged soul of Fu Su before his death, which was only released after he accidentally broke it. At this moment, Su Northland also realized that his soul had been absorbed into the nylon cup. But according to what was said by the Boshan Cauldron, this situation generally occurs when a person's obsession is particularly strong before death. He is a living soul, and his body is also fine. I'm afraid someone has tampered with it. According to the logic of the longevity lock breaking previously, does it mean that this cup must break for him to be liberated? At this point, the Chineseculture Palace lamp told him an even more devastating news. Only ancient jade artifacts can sustain the soul for a long time. This nylon cup is only a jade artifact of 300 to 400 years at most, ensuring that his spirit will last for only 7 days before dispersing. The situation in Su Northland suddenly became urgent. Within 7 days, he must make this cup shatter without being able to move. It sounds like an impossible task. For days have indeed passed. He has tried to attract the boss's attention and also attempted to push the cup, but all his efforts have been in vain. The Boshan Cauldron also tried to comfort him. It's okay. It will all be over in the blink of an eye. When he finishes watching the silent house, it will be time to move. But in the future, Fusu will not die young in the next life. I wonder if the boss will continue to search. But staying in one place for a long time, and not aging, may arouse suspicion. It used to be fine before. As long as you change your location, you won't be recognized. But now that the internet is developed, all photos are posted online. Even if he hides in the deep mountains, he might still be identified. That's why the boss chose to set up such an inconspicuous storefront on this commercial street. It really won't attract the attention of others. Moreover, the silent house has always had very few guests. But the boss only moved here 3 years ago, right? It seems that in recent years, his frequency of moving has been increasing, indicating that the situation is not good. Just when Su Northland sighed for the boss, Sanching bird happened to land nearby. Su Northland was surprised to find that the Sanching bird actually responded. Su Northland quickly called out to it. He originally wanted Sanching bird to set himself free from the nylon cup. Didn't expect it offended all the exhibits. He just couldn't bump into himself in these days trapped among the antiques. He found that these silent antiques also have their own fun. When they see familiar emperors reincarnate, they will greet loudly. When they see the boss selecting teaware, they will also vie for favor like palace consorts. At the beginning, Su Northland was not used to it. How can this be the silent house when every ancient object inside can speak? Until he becomes the 6th day of the nylon cup, there is only 1 day left, and he may not be able to return to his original state. But thinking about him becoming an ignored cultural relic, he is still very unwilling. But he still believes that the boss will definitely save him. On the last day, the boss suddenly picked up the nylon cup and carefully wiped each antique in the store. This was the boss's daily routine, but he unexpectedly missed the nylon cup. Su Northland must be aware of something that the boss knows. Only saw the boss drinking the sweet and clear wine in the cup. Su Northland only felt soft and light-bodied. The boss actually used it as a cup. That night, the boss came to the hospital to visit Su Northland. But he asked the mysterious person behind him, "I gave you 7 days. Shouldn't you give up now?" It turns out that the mysterious person is the second emperor of Qinhuai. According to his original plan, as long as he sealed the memory of this man, then the soul belonging to his royal brother should occupy this body. But he waited for 7 days, and nothing happened. Is this person not Fusu? Or is it a smokescreen created by the boss? But this person frequently enters and exits the silent house. He also receives special treatment from the boss. Except for him, the only other person is the one who delivered the wordless steel. Is it him then? Who had quietly left without the boss saying anything. Instead, he helped Su Northland up from the sickbed. He fed him the fine wine from the nylon cup. The bloodstains originally attached to the nylon cup instantly disappeared. Su Northland finally woke up. He has been forced to take a 1-month leave from the hospital. However, upon waking up, Sue Northland still. Nylon cup is always on his mind, and he can't forget about the soul-locking matter. He often asks the boss, "You say you can't hear the words of these antiques. Could it be that you are trying to deceive me?" The boss jokingly said, "You must be dreaming. How could antiques speak?" But Sue Northland clearly remembered that the Boshan cauldron criticized him for using inferior spices. The two Chonix Iron Palace lamps are sisters. The one on the left is lively, while the one on the right is quiet. That's why the flame on the left flickers more fiercely. But the boss said that there is wind passing through the door gap in that position, causing the flame to flicker naturally. This makes Sue Northland doubt whether it is all just a dream. However, it all seems too real to be just a dream. Although he couldn't be sure if it was a dream, he could no longer view the antiques in this room with his usual calmness. Even the teacup handed to him by the boss. He felt a bit embarrassed to pick it up and drink from it. Just say you're afraid of dropping and breaking this antique, or go buy some disposable paper cups at the supermarket. The boss smiled slightly. If you're not used to it, you can use the nylon cup.